Welcome to Focus on Abilities, a program about issues affecting the lives of people with disabilities. I'm Lex Frieden. I'll be your host for today's program. I'm professor of biomedical informatics at the University of Texas Health Science Center at Houston, and also direct the Independent Living Research Program at TIRR Memorial Hermann Hospital. We have a great guest for you today. We'll be talking about services for people with disabilities in our community, and I'll introduce her right after we take a break. But first, I want to ask you a question, one that we will answer before the end of today's program. Question is, if you live in the Houston area, in Houston, what number do you call if you have needs and you have a disability, or you may be a senior who has special needs? Tell me the answer to that, or we'll tell you before the end of the program today. Thanks for watching. We'll be right back. Thanks for joining us today. Our guest today is Janice Sparks from the City of Houston Health and Human Services Department. Janice, welcome to Focus on Abilities.
Thanks, Lex.
Janice, now, you and I first met when you were developing a new program in Houston called the Aging and Disabled Resource Center, correct?
Right. Mm-hmm.
But before that, you were in somewhere off in Tennessee, or I read your resume one time a long time ago, so I'm interested. What is your background?
I have a doctorate in gerontology, and I received that from the University of Kentucky. Before that, I was at Texas Women's University in Denton, and then before that, I was born in Houston, but then with my dad, because of my dad's job, we moved around quite a bit. So just ended up in Denton and then on to Lexington, where I went to the University of Kentucky. And then after that, I came here to work.
So you consider yourself to be a Houstonian?
Yes.
Just by the virtue of the fact that you've come and gone and you're back for life, right?
Well, yeah, and I mean, I was born here, so, you know, I can always claim that, so.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And you're a gerontologist. Now, most people who think about gerontology think about medical doctors who treat people who are aging. Tell us how your job as a gerontologist is different from that.
Well, gerontologists focus on like the study of aging and take more of a research concentration, whereas geriatricians focus on the medical aspect of aging. And so, although I don't do a whole lot of research with my job, I do kind of help develop programs, and I'm more on the social service side of aging. So that's kind of some of the difference.
And when you were in school in Kentucky, did you have any particular practicum or experience that prepared you for the job you're doing now?
Yes, well, I had to do a dissertation, and at that time I was interested in nursing home care, and specifically about African Americans and why they were there are some statistics that come out every few years or so, and it was showing that African Americans were using nursing homes more frequently, and I wanted to know why. And so that's what my dissertation was about, and so I did my dissertation on that and found out some different reasons why. So, but now my interests aren't really nursing home specific, it's more general, and it's more not so much focused on African Americans, but just the general population.
Now, the interesting thing about the disability community is that we are all concerned about nursing homes. So your background there and the work you're doing has a real pertinent link to the work you're doing with the Aging and Disability Resource Center. I know many people with disabilities who are afraid, and I think seniors as well, that once they become disabled to a certain degree, they may have to move into a nursing home. Mm-hmm. And I presume your research showed that is probably not the most, the best quality of life for people.
Right, it's not ideal, and there's a movement now to try to relocate people from nursing facilities back into the community. And as a matter of fact, we have a program through the ADRC that helps people explore different options outside of nursing facilities. So if a person with a disability calls, or even a senior calls, I've heard of situations where there have been people who are in their 90s and even some 100-year-olds who just don't like the facility feel, and so they want to try to find community alternatives, and they've been able to move out of the nursing facility back into the community. And of course you have to have the supports, the medical supports, the social supports needed to go back into the community, but it is possible. And nursing home living is good for some, and it's needed for some, but not for everyone.
And what about people who are at risk of going into nursing homes? I mean, there are probably help support they can get to avoid having to move into that location if they don't wish to?
Right, and really, we have another program that's focused on that too. It's really trying to focus on helping people prevent either going into the hospital or returning to the hospital, and that means that people have to really pay attention to their health conditions and their environment so that they don't end up going into a hospital, and that may dictate whether or not they go into a nursing facility, because a lot of times when people leave a hospital and they're treated for something, they may need longer-term care, longer-term medical care, and a nursing home may be an alternative or an option. But that's not always the case. It's about what tools can people be given so that they don't have to go into a nursing facility, or if they leave like a hospital, they can have tools that will help them stay in their home and not kind of have that recurring cycle of illness. Some things are preventable.
And I mean, as a scientist, you have a PhD. I know you have hypothetical questions that you're interested in answering, and some that you address in the course of your work. There used to be a kind of myth that once you're in the nursing home, you can't get out, but your data now suggests otherwise.
Right, and there are people, when given the right supports, who can live in the community and thrive. And I just don't think that in the past people really explored whether or not they had those options, or what. I think the thought is that, okay, you have a disability or you have an illness, and so that automatically qualifies you to stay in a nursing facility, but that's not so. Again, there are different questions that the ADRC, Aging and Disability Resource Center, we ask certain questions to help people explore whether or not they think moving back into the community is viable. And these are really honest questions that we have to ask, because, first of all, what's your health condition? Is your health condition such that you have the medical support you need to live in the community? And if so, okay, let's talk about those things. What's needed? If not, then what can make your life in the facility as comfortable as possible and as livable, and as, again, as comfortable, so that you're living the best existence that you can.
Yeah. So, I mean, you've raised a lot of questions in my mind. First of all, we know there are people in nursing homes, and we know some of them are going to have to stay there because of their physical or their psychological conditions, and others for economic reasons, or because they simply can't find the supports they need in the community. If they are being abused there, or if somebody becomes aware that they're abused, I suppose that's another opportunity to be in touch with the ADRC.
Right. I mean, there are lots of different avenues that people can take if they're being abused or neglected, or they just don't feel like their environment is what it should be. There are ombudsmen who come into nursing homes, and that's the other thing. Nursing home residents have rights, have lots of rights, and people need to know that if they want to get out of the nursing facility, there are numbers that the nursing facility has to give them by state mandate, and really federal mandate, that will allow them to explore their different options to leave the nursing facility. So people can call us, they can contact the ombudsman, they can ask for the ombudsman, and the ombudsman is really there to help facilitate the process of getting results from problems that may arise in a nursing facility.
That's interesting, because I remember a few years ago being told by people who were in the nursing home that they were encouraged by the operators of the nursing home to stay there, and mainly because they wanted to keep all their beds filled, I think, not simply because the person actually needed the assistance they were providing. Now that's been resolved by federal rules that provide people with those rights, and they have access to ombudsman, as you said. The other issue, I guess, though, is nursing home living is one thing, but living in the community in substandard conditions is another situation that many aging and disabled people face. They're trying to be as independent as possible. trying to stay in their own home, in their own environment, and yet they don't have the necessary support, so their health deteriorates, their physical and psychological condition deteriorates, their families are not able to care for them adequately, and so on. In this case, I mean, here's another instance where people need help. Again, the ADRC can be helpful.
Right. So again, we all have certain desires. So one of those desires may be, okay, I don't like this environment I'm living in. I want to at least see if living outside of a nursing facility is an option. And then so people call us and they talk to what's called an options counselor, and the options counselor just starts asking questions about really, why are you calling? What's your situation? What's going on? And then, okay, so you're saying you want to move out of the nursing facility, but have you thought about how much it's going to cost, where you're going to live, what support you're going to need? Is your family involved? Do you have a faith community who's involved? I mean, all these types of questions, because once you're out there and you can come back, but the thing is going back and forth can be an inconvenience to the individual, as well as a lot of different people. So it's something to really think about and explore carefully, because even though a person may have a desire to leave, it may not be the best option.
Now, in the introduction to the show, I asked people if they knew what the number to call was if they were aging or disabled and they needed some assistance in these regards. And we usually wait until the end of the program to answer that question, because I think it's good for people to have a reason to watch until the very end if they're interested. However, you and I have had this kind of enriched discussion about how people's needs can be met through this service called the ADRC. And I think it'd be good to give them the phone number now that they can call, and we'll do it again before the end of the program.
Okay, so the number is 877-393-1090. Or I'll say it another way, 877-393-1090.
Okay, and any time, what are the hours?
Well, we're open Monday through Friday, 8 to 5, but of course people can call after hours and leave a message and we'll return the phone call. And we also have a website, so that if people want to just submit a question, maybe they want to remain anonymous, then they can submit the question through the website, and then someone will respond to them via email.
What's the website URL?
It's www.careconnection.org. So it's careconnection.org.
Okay. We're going to visit more with Janice Sparks about what's going on to benefit people with disabilities and seniors in our community right after this break from Focus on Abilities. Please stay tuned. Welcome back to Focus on Abilities. I'm Lex Frieden, your host. We're here today with Janice Sparks from the City of Houston Health and Human Services Department, and we're talking about services for people who are aging, seniors, and people with disabilities in the City of Houston and the surrounding area, which may affect whether or not a person can live independently in their own home, or they may need to seek assistance of a facility like a nursing home or something else. And Janice has been good enough to tell us that there are options and there are people willing to help sort of determine what the best options for folks are. So Janice, when people call the ADRC, they'll talk to a counselor there, I suppose, and that person will help them sort of assess where they are with their needs and then route them to other services that may be available to them?
Yes, we have a pretty in-depth assessment process to determine what resources and supports people need. So once that assessment is completed, then, like you said, we help route people to the correct resource or service that they may need.
But a lot of people are frustrated because they've called everybody they know already. They've had to answer these questions over and over again, and now you're asking them to answer the question again. What can you say about that?
Well, one of the things that would help us is when you call, when people who are watching call, they can just tell us who they've spoken with instead of us having to go through the whole process, because that helps us know kind of where, at least gives us a better starting point than starting from the beginning. Now, of course, there are routine questions that we'll ask, like your name and your number and things like that. But then if you've already like applied for certain services or things like that, then just tell us, because that helps us at least know whether there's a waiting list involved, and if so, maybe where you are on the waiting list, because I know that's another complaint, is that I've been waiting for services or the resources just aren't available. And I mean, it's the kind of environment where resources are really short and are very limited. And so while we do have some resources that may be a little bit different than what's out there, we don't always, I won't even say that we are going to be everyone's answer, but at least we'll help people explore their different options.
So the people that really have been good students and have tried virtually shaken every branch, they may not find a new one when they call you. However, some people who may have forgotten to check with one agency or another, or not really realized they could be eligible for one benefit or another, they would have value in speaking to one of the counselors at the ADRC.
Right, because there's one program in particular that we have, the benefits counseling program, that really helps explore all different kinds of resources from Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, different types of resources that even though people may be utilizing, let's say, Medicaid or Social Security, people may not be aware of certain programs that they're eligible for.
Yeah, I've been to some of your board meetings, and I'm aware that, for example, people who have difficulty paying their electricity, or they're so far behind they're about to be cut off, and yet they need the power in order to run some kind of device that they're dependent on. There are programs and ways to negotiate solutions to some of those even very complex problems.
Right, and I want to be clear that we don't, for example, if people call and they have a question about their light bill or utility bills, then we don't have the funds to pay for, turning a person's light back on. But what we can do is help connect them to the resource that may be able to help them turn their lights back on. Okay. So it's that kind of thing. And again, we don't have funding for every single problem or issue that a person has, but we try to connect people to those resources that will help them.
The main thing you're trying to do is keep people from falling through the cracks and help guide them through the maze of different community services that are out there.
Mm-hmm. Right. And so one of the really great things about the ADRC where we are physically located is we have people from different programs who work for different organizations who are housed at our building at the ADRC, where the ADRC is. And so if one of the staff people doesn't have the answer, then they can walk down the hall or pick up the phone and say, hey, do you know about this resource? Or I'm kind of stumped. Do you know where I could find some information about this other thing? Instead of somebody having to call phone number one and then number two and kind of running the circuit, we have several people from different organizations in-house to where we kind of try to eliminate that as much as possible.
Janice, do you have a physical roll-in or walk-in place, or is it all virtual by phone?
People can walk in, but it's not convenient to everyone. We're located by LBJ Hospital, which is off 610 East. It's on Lockwood Drive. It's the Cashmere Multi-Service Center, and that's not close to everyone. Great. So while people are free to drive over and walk in, it may not be convenient. So, if people want to call in, email, they're free to do that, whatever is convenient for them.
Now, in addition to the ADRC, you're involved with a lot of other services provided by the city's Health and Human Services Agency. I want to visit with you about those. Mm-hmm. But before we do, I'm going to take another break here, and I hope everybody stays tuned. We'll be right back to talk more with Janice Sparks about what's going on with Health and Human Services, meeting the needs of people with disabilities and elders in our community. Watching Focus on Abilities. Janice Sparks is our guest today. Janice is an expert on aging and disability and a number of issues regarding services to people with disabilities and those who are seniors in the community. We've talked about the ADRC that's available in our community, but Janice, you're engaged in some other direct services to people. What are those?
Well, I'm part of the Area Agency on Aging. That's part of the the health department for the city, and so we provide a lot of different services for seniors, meals, we have a meals program, hearing, dental, vision, legal services, just a whole host of different services specifically for seniors. But the ADRC is a little bit different. We do help older individuals and their families, but also people with disabilities, which we talked about earlier today. But, there are some programs that if it's okay with you if I mention that are new.
Please do. I think everybody who's watching would be interested.
Okay. Well, we have a new respite care program that I am just really excited about, and the focus of that is to help caregivers take a break from their caregiving responsibilities.
So this is like family members who are trying to care for a loved one who may have a disability or a chronic health condition. They need help throughout the day, and they just get burned out. They need a break, need a vacation. They have to go out of town on a family business or other business. They need help filling in, right?
Right, and so this program is designed to help people just either take a break or take care of some business, whatever they want to do, but we are giving people vouchers. It's for a certain dollar amount, and so people can use that voucher however they want. So if they want to purchase services for someone to come into the home and take care of their loved one, they can do that. Or there are some services that people can take advantage of outside of the home, like adult day services, or let's say weekend respite, different respite programs that other agencies offer. We can help people explore what's the best option is for them. But the great thing about it is that it's for people of any age who have any type of disability. So that's a little different than some of the services that are out there, because we don't restrict it to certain health conditions or anything like that. So there are only a certain number of slots, though. So we want people to the slots are open. So go ahead and give us a call, and then again, there are several questions that we ask people, but hopefully if you qualify, you can take advantage of the voucher.
So Janice, should they call the ADRC number, or is there another number that they should call direct?
They should call the ADRC number.
And just ask about the respite program. Now, are the individuals who need the assistance, are they the eligible people, or the people who are the caregivers?
The caregivers. So, even if people are watching and they know they have a friend or a family member who's taking care of someone with a disability, then that caregiver needs a break, then have them call us. So we're really excited, because we've already seen in some cases where it's made a big difference.
Wow. And in terms of eligibility criteria, I suspect there's some kinds of income measures or other.
Actually, there aren't. There are no income measures or anything like that, but we have to be able to validate that the caregiver is caring for someone with a legitimate health condition. Okay. So there may be some paperwork that's required.
And they shouldn't misunderstood. This is not a long-term care assistance program. It's like for a weekend break.
Right, and they have 80 hours that they can use. So in that 80 hours, there's a dollar amount attached to the 80 hours, a maximum of 80 hours that can be used.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Real quick, anything else that's right on the tip of your tongue?
Well, we always have the benefits counseling program, which excites me all the time, because people just don't know all of the resources that are available and things they qualify for, like the extra help program through Medicare, as well as the Medicare savings programs. So just give us a call, because it's like sometimes the door just opens of information.
And I know that your department was vital in terms of recovery from Hurricane Ike. Mm-hmm. A lot of people, you arranged for people to be helped in their homes and to recover as quickly as anybody else. So congratulations on that. Janice, thank you and your colleagues for all that you're doing for those of us with disabilities and family members, as well as seniors in our community. It's great work.
Thank you. Thanks, Lex.
I want to thank all of you for watching Focus on Abilities today. Now, at the beginning of the program, we asked you what number you would call if you were a person with a disability or a senior who had some kinds of needs for community-based services or other assistance making decisions about resources and eligibility criteria for different benefit programs. Janice has told us about the ADRC here in Houston. Janice, one more time, the phone number.
877-393-1090.
And the website is
www.careconnection.org.
Careconnection, one word, no spaces, and .org.
Yes.
Okay, thanks very much. Again, thank you all for watching. We hope that you've enjoyed this episode of Focus on Abilities and Focus on Abilities. And we hope you tune in next time, because we try to provide you with a lot of information that will be useful to you in your daily lives. If you have suggestions, please don't hesitate to email them in, and we'll take a look at them. Again, thanks for watching. Thanks to HTV for producing the program, and we'll look forward to seeing you next time. Bye.